That's
Wait.
not there. Is definitely.
There we are.
Oh, there we are. We're live. Folks, a very...
We live.
Stop. We were having a conversation off screen before we came live, and that's what I was laughing at. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you all for your weekly... Sorry, there's messages coming in here. I'm looking at...
Who gives a fuck, honestly?
Oh, right. Okay. Jesus Christ. Whichever stood up. A very warm welcome to your weekly dose of Mauls, Balls, and all coming to you every Wednesday live from 8:30. We are awaiting the arrival of Mr. Brent Pope, who will join us momentarily, but just slightly delayed at the moment. Joining me are familiar faces to you all. We have Richard Holland, we have Claire Devaney, we have Peter Martin, and we have Dara Weston. How the hell are we all doing? Are we all well?
Oh,
amazing.
Fantastic.
So
breathing unaided, Peter.
So we're basically all, as I always say, we're all well in ourselves.
Oh, well in ourselves, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Now, Richard Holland.
Mind you, we've all got our various different ailments and grievances, but we're not going to share them because nobody gives a fuck anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, Pete, that cream you sent me for that rash, it didn't work. I'm telling you.
That's because it's not meant to be scraped off and put back in the bottle again.
Go on.
For external use only, Pete.
For external use only, that's it.
Always for external use.
This came up, Richard Holland, I'll come to you first, and I'm just looking at everyone coming around now. Megan Augusta, how are you? Richard Holland, this came up in last week's show when we were discussing the transfers, Snyman to Leinster, Wiener Cock to Ulster, Giggity, Sarah Dudley. Now, but to expand on this, my question is: do the provinces actually need or require NIQ players? Now, before you answer, Richard, there's a pros and cons here. If we look back, yes, there has been some great NIQ players. For Ulster, you had Ruan Pienaar, you had Dougie Howler from Munster, you had Jared Butler for Connacht, Brad Thorne, Nathan Hines, Rocky Elson for Leinster. But essentially, do the Irish provinces need NIQ players?
5 years ago, I would have said yes, but at the moment, I don't think so. Now, it could be the case that a lot of these players that were brought in have inspired the then younger players to take up the sport, and some of them have obviously come through and they're real talents. But at the moment, I don't think we do. We have if you look even at Munster, the amount of loose forwards that we have coming through is absolutely incredible. Even second rows, we've the Odogwu brothers, who I know Edwin got a senior contract, and Sean is probably going to get one next year. So at the moment, I don't think we do.
All right. So, okay. So no NIQ players in your view, Richard?
I don't think it's necessary, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right. Okay. Claire Devaney, NIQ players, do the provinces need them?
No, I agree with what Richard said. I think a couple of years ago, yes, but now we need to, especially now with the new rule coming in that all your front row have to be Irish. They can't be brought in from elsewhere. So we need to start building our own.
Okay, fair enough. Joe Lyons.
Sorry, I'm watching. I'm trying to keep an eye on the All Blacks versus the Box in the seventh. So just come back to me in about 6 minutes.
Who's currently winning?
New Zealand's 10-5.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That's why Grant hasn't joined yet.
And it's now half time for 2 minutes, and then they'll be back for the second half of 7 minutes.
All right, Dara Weston, NIQ players. Look, there's been several massive successes over the years.
I'll stop you there.
Go on.
Yes, I think we do require them.
Okay.
Because ultimately, I mean, look at Leinster. And it's been the same with Munster in the past. Whatever team is dominating the Irish squad loses most of its players from probably after the Christmas game or the New Year's game until nearly the end of March. Okay. You've also got Heineken games going on during that time. So you need good players. If your Irish squad get good enough, they get selected for the Irish squad and you lose them. But if you have the likes of a Nathan Hines, a Rocky Elsom, Issa Nasewa, lads who can still play during the international season, that's a massive help to the team. And also, I mean, I saw somebody giving out on the forum about Cock going to Munster or going to Ulster. He's their only NIQ player. They're one player. And like, if you look at their history, okay, apart from Kitsoff, Ruan Pinar stayed there. I think he was there about 7 years. And basically,
he would have stayed longer.
He would have stayed, only that the IRFU said you could only have one NIQ in the position amongst the 4 provinces, and Gibson Park had just come to Leinster. Like, he was saying he was uprooting his family to leave Ulster at that stage. So I definitely think they bring something to the domestic game and to the provincial teams. I mean, can any of us actually say that the younger lads coming through the Leinster squad aren't going to learn anything from having Bowden Barrett around the camp?
Yeah, we'll come to that.
For 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah. Go on.
No, but that's my point. I think they bring experience in, and they help when the teams are, when there's like Richie Murphy's going to have a lot of young lads now coming through. Having an experienced South African there, that's going to help the younger lads.
But Dara,
so I think there is they serve a purpose.
No, true. But when we last had this conversation, Peter Martin, I'm coming to you next, and I'm going to quote you, Peter Martin, because Dara, Peter Martin said, "Why can't the Irish players take the experience and the training from the current Irish players? Why do they need NIQ players coming over here to play for teams when they can get the same experience from current players?"
So we've an 8-month season, September to May.
Yeah.
Of that, your international players are going to be gone for the autumn internationals, so maybe 3-4 weeks for that, and then for the Six Nations, about 10 weeks. So that's about nearly 3 months out of 9 months that your international players aren't going to be there in the squad to mentor the younger lads. They're not going to have them in the changing rooms on the training pitch. They're going to be off in international duty.
Right. Okay.
All
right. Okay. Fair enough, Dar. Yeah. Fair point. Peter Martin, your thoughts on this? Do the Irish provincial teams need NIQ players?
Well, the funny thing is, I do agree an awful lot with what Dara's saying. The other thing I would say, though, as well, is that from a bums and seats point of view, as Dara alluded to, the players are gone for a block during the autumn for the autumn series, and another block during the Six Nations. Now, rugby doesn't stop because our superstars are away from the provinces. There's still URC matches to be played, and ultimately, if there's a couple of superstars, top quality players that are there playing, in which Jordy Barrett's going to play URC, I've no doubt about it. He's going to play plenty of URC, and a few Heineken Cup games as well, perhaps, depending what way the fixtures and so on. So they need to make sure that there's bums and seats at all the games. There's tickets being sold not because, oh, well, I'm not going to go to that because it's a Leinster third string out, because it's the boys from the academy. They want to be going when the likes of Snyman and Cock is playing, when Barrett's playing, and all these other NIQ players. Like they bring a bit of quality when the Irish quality is absent. They make sure people still turn up to watch, to be entertained, because that's why people watch the game, is to be bloody entertained. So they bring that stardust, that star quality. They're as good as, in my view, like the NIQ players should be basically a like-for-like replacement for the Irish players in many respects. Like, for me, Jordy Barrett is okay. He's a top quality player, but don't tell me he's no better or no worse than Gary Ringrose or Robbie Henshaw. He isn't. So for me, it's just like for like replacement. The reality is, our guys go missing for a period of time, and they need to make sure that it's business, from a business perspective, that they have these guys in to make sure tickets are sold. I don't necessarily agree, or I probably kind of change my mind so much as regards the whole experience and pass on. They're going to be there enough, I think, anyway, that the boys are probably going to get enough. Like over a season or two, they're going to be, there with Andrew Porter and Dan Sheehan and so on. All the other guys are going to pick up bits and pieces off them. They have to make their own mistakes as well, of course. But I think there's learning from a different culture when the NIQ players come in. But most importantly, I think it's basically the NIQ players are there so that the standard doesn't drop off when the Irish players are away, and that Leinster are going to be Leinster in particular probably. Are going to be challenging hard on two fronts from next season. And indeed, the other provinces are going to be challenging hard on, possibly two fronts.
Okay. Just a couple of comments there, folks, before Brent joins us. Joe Line, sorry, but why cut off a way of developing players when all other test nations are doing it? Do we honestly think we are good enough simply because we currently have a crop of good players? Sorry, but the arrogance of that is dumbfounding. I'm not saying flood the teams, but use them to our advantage 100%. Thanks, Joe. As always, good to have you with us. Good point. Gregor Galway, I agree with Peter Martin's comment. Agree, Ireland players. Ian Gilbert, hi from Madrid. Hi, Ian. Good to have you with us. James Grennan, don't ask Mike Farage. Reedy, no, say nothing. Say nothing.
You can hear wailing in the distance.
You can. James Grennan, hi Chris. Hi Chris. Mr. James Grennan agrees. Okay, fair enough. Sorry, folks.
One other thing I'd like to add, Peter.
Go on, Dara. You work away, Dara, because I'm trying to sort out, trying to get Brent on here.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were being sarcastic, because you usually
No.
So
work away.
The Irish provinces have won 7 Heineken Cups. And now, Peter Martin, you'll probably know this, but to the best of my knowledge, only one of those wins was without an NIQ, and that was when Ulster won it originally. Munster had foreign players for each of their wins, and Leinster had foreign players for each of our wins.
Yeah, that's probably true, to be fair, yeah.
I think it's just a fixture of the modern game now. The game has evolved, and look, it's not a replacement for developing younger players, but it's an assistance. If we can't get a decent host for the show, you host it. I mean, you, Burke, not you, Peter Martin.
No, just go on, talk amongst yourselves there, folks. Just for 1 second here. I'm trying to sort out a problem here. Just go on, talk amongst yourselves there.
He's watching the New Zealand match. He'll be on when it finishes.
No, that's me. Sorry, that's me. There's 1 minute and 40 seconds left, by the way.
No, I was saying that's where Brent is. He's watching.
Yeah, that's where Brent is. Yeah, he is watching that. There's 1 minute and 22 seconds left for a grab.
Dara, I think you're well within your rights and reason to smoke up an old Romeo and Julieta there and just sit back and.
I might do.
Have a Hamlet
so what
moment.
I'm wondering is now if it looks like New Zealand are going to beat South Africa 17-5 in the second half. So that'll mean South Africa will have 2 out of 3 losses. So can they actually get through?
No, they've only played 2 games. They've only played 2 games today, haven't they?
Yeah, that's it. But they've only 3 games they can play.
Yeah.
So Ireland and New Zealand have 2 wins each, so they'll be going
tomorrow. They're playing each other tomorrow.
But potentially there is 15 teams and 8 of them go through. But I think it's the winner of the 3 groups, and then.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure. They could.
Pools. Yeah, it's 3 pools.
Yeah, it's 3 pools. So yeah. it's 3 pools, so potentially, yeah, they could, like, depending on what way the other pools go. But Fiji are just they're something else. There was like basketball. There was like basketball shots. They were like Kobe Bryant on the pitch passing the ball at one stage.
As for Fiji have always been the Harlem Globetrotters
Yeah,
of
yeah.
15s and of 7s.
Yeah, no, they have to
yeah.
say it was very good. They were very good.
Yeah.
And France are not looking too good. Maybe it's just
No.
fourth day bedding in, but they're not looking too good.
How ironic would it be, that such a thing was made of DuPont not playing, because of his 7s, and fair enough, they qualified through Los Angeles and Singapore and Hong Kong and all that. But geez, if they didn't get through to the pool stages, or if they didn't get out of the pool stages, that would be embarrassing.
I'd say they will, but it's they drew with the USA 12-all.
Yeah.
And they were kind of lucky to get the draw.
We have
I heard that the Yanks kicked the ball out.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing for the 7s players is that you could have lads after tomorrow who know their Olympics is over, and the opening ceremony doesn't start until the following day.
I know. Yeah.
You could actually be knocked out and your Olympics over tomorrow, and the opening ceremony hasn't even started.
So you could rock up to that absolutely scuttered.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because the opening ceremony is in the boat is in the Seine. They're all going to be in boats going down the Seine. So can you imagine definitely not the Seine anyway. They'd be overcome by the smell.
Hold on.
Okay, I don't know what's he doing. Like, what's he trying? Does anyone know what he's trying to do, or is he just like
talking to himself?
No.
Yeah, well, that's what he usually does.
He's having a slow stroke, lads.
He's ordering more humorous hats off Temu or AliExpress. He's trying to get more South African viewers, so he'll get Razzie for Pope or something on his next one.
Hold on.
Why? What? Oh, there we go. There's Brendan.
There it is. Go on.
That's
good.
Productions.
Just disregard my attempt at growing a beard. So I look a bit like I'm trying to look a bit like George Clooney, but I think I'm looking more like Father Christmas. But
you're looking more like Peter Buck, to be honest with you.
Christmas come early, Brent.
Brent, how the hell are you? Are you well in yourself?
well, that's a great Irish saying. You're well in yourself.
There you go.
If you weren't, you'd be in trouble. But,
well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, no,
Brent, all good.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Actually, Brent, the last time I saw you was in Stephen's Green for your Elephant in the Room
with Charlie. Yeah.
With poor old Charlie Burge. Yeah.
No, it's going great. Thanks for your support, Beach. It's really gone fantastically well. I think we have about 50 elephants out there now. They've only been going a year, so it's really caught on as a kind of a creative way to get the message across that I'm trying to get across. But a lot of the companies, we've got ones in with the disadvantaged schools, we've got them into children's hospitals, we've got them into the guards, we've got them into prison officers, and all these places where they're really making a difference. Construction industry, we're trying to get into GAA, into rugby clubs, just as a symbol of hope for people that can go into a sporting organisation and see that organisation cares about their mental health as much as they do their physical health.
Yeah, I tell you what, Brent, it's something. I think I said it to you on the day. It's a subject I care deeply about, and I support 100%.
No, you're doing. You're very good, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, come here to me. Now that you're here, Brent, I have a few. I have a few questions that were that were sent in by people to ask you.
No.
Now they're innocent.
No, I know.
Well. In fairness, a few of them. Well,
Burke, why are you making it sound like Cilla Black on Blind Date?
I tend not to look at questions, even when I was working on RT. I tended, unlike George, not to kind of like to have anything pre-rehearsed. I just like to sort of go, off the cuff, if that's the way of looking at it.
Yeah.
All right. Here, okay. I tell you what, Brent. We fly through this. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone asked me, ask him if he's single.
I remember seeing that one. Yeah.
Yes, the answer is yes. Unfortunately or fortunately, I've been single for a long time now. Maybe about 5 or 6 years, since before COVID. I haven't been on I haven't even been on a date since before COVID. How sad is that?
All right, we won't.
Yeah.
Okay, your next one, Brent, from Joe Lyons. He asks. He says, "Your mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Yeah.
How should the game be implementing? Obviously, on my rugby." How should the game be implementing a more rounded and fuller support mechanism for all participants, not only at test level, but down to grassroots?
Yeah, great question. There's obviously somebody that's thought about that, because that's very much been my drive for a number of years, Pete, as you know, because I could never understand. Here's the kicker for me, just not in mental health and sport and rugby specifically, but if we look at the biggest areas of cost in business, there's 3 areas that cost companies the most annually. One is people taking time off work, or presentism or something. There's a word for it now, where people are coming to work and they shouldn't be. That's one cost. Lack of productivity when they're in the workplace. That's the second biggest cost. And then the third is employee retention. So training people up and they go to another job. And the two biggest reasons for that, 1 and 2, are anxiety and depression. Yet the lowest cost, the lowest time spent, is on those things. So if you apply that to the game of rugby or to any sport, wouldn't you think that a coach, the first thing he would do would be make sure that they create an environment where the players' mental health is looked after as much as the physical health? But we don't. We don't, because it's only over the last few years. See, the success of coach, people often ask me all the time, no one coach has all the pizza, as I call it. Some of them have more slices of the pizza than others, if you look at the holistic look at of a player. But the strength of coaches like Andy Farrell and Joe Schmidt before him, and now Razor Robertson, and these types of coaches now know the significance of looking after their players' mental health, because the way they look at it is they say, okay, if we're going to get a player to perform at his very best, he needs to have all areas of his life looked at. You can't expect a player to go out and play a test match, as you can't expect them to go out and play a colours match or a club match, if other things aren't in place in their life. How's their relationship with their parents? How's their relationship with their partner? How are they getting on at school? How are they getting on at work? All these things play a huge part in getting the best out of an athlete at whatever level. Are they happy? Are they happy at the club? Are they happy making friends? Are they happy? All those things become very important to a coach like Andy Farrell, because he gets the players playing for him because they like him. They like him. He's the consummate kind of manager, in my opinion, that gets the best out of his players, because he never bags them in the press. He always ups them. He always takes the blame or responsibility on himself. He doesn't play it down for the players. He doesn't blame them. And he's very respected, and he's old school in that sense, that if he doesn't have the answer, then he brings somebody in that does have the answer. He doesn't try to spoof it. All those things play a huge part in getting the best out of players. In fact, when New Zealand rugby, when I was talking to Richie McCaw one time, he was very troubled after they went out of the World Cup in 2007 or whatever in Cardiff. And so it was the first time that they had used a sports psychiatrist, not just to get the play on the field, but to look at feelings of failure. Like those All Blacks came home at that stage, and some of them were, I think John Hart was pelted with water bottles at a race meeting or something like that. They really, some of them dribbled their way back home. They didn't want to come back to New Zealand because of the kind of wrath they got, and they couldn't handle it. So then they started they started reframing what it was to be an All Black, and what it was to be an All Black was to be a better person first and foremost. So they had a whole holistic look at what made a good player, and some of that was physical skills and fitness and all that, but a lot was mental, because at the end of the day, it's the mind that drives the body. It's not the other way around, and people don't get that. And certain sports in the UK, they're very slow to come to that realization, especially in football. We're seeing a bit now, but football was always a bastion of, players could lose contracts overnight and go from 100,000 to nothing, and they were just meant to go away and handle it. Well, how?
Now, I tell you now, Brent, I've another question. I've two more questions for you, right? Now, I got a load of them, but I whittled it down.
Yeah. Well,
If I was to ask all the questions, we'd be here all night. This one came in from Shirley Thornton, and she says, was very much missed as a commentator. From a coaching perspective, would you consider coaching rugby players who maybe are anxious in joining a club due to their own anxiety and mental health? You will be a great inspiration for them.
Oh, thanks for that, Shirley.
There you go.
But no, I have dabbled in that, Peter. As you know, I went back and for my own journey, I went back and trained qualified as a psychotherapist. So my sort of niche area was dealing with schoolboy players that were coming to me very anxious. And, when you looked at that pathway, it was just rife for young people, especially at SCT level and JCT level, getting caught up in the whole kind of what it meant to play for their school team and get on the bus and all the social things that went along with being in an SCT team. And that caused a lot of young people a lot of anxiety. We also had to work with, I think one of the rugby schools had a suicide at the school, so we had to deal with a lot of the young players, how they handle that and all those sorts of things. But I remember one young player coming to me and was really in a bad way and mentally. He was in a really dark place, and it was all because he had missed out on the SCT team of that year. And we had a real struggle bringing him back, and it took a lot of work. But so, yes, there is a lot of anxiety around feeling that you've failed, feeling that you haven't achieved your expectations, feeling that you've missed out somehow. And really, it's the same applies to players that are recently retired from international club level and not knowing how they can get that adoration back, or whatever. So yes, it's something that I would love to do, and I would love to work more with young rugby players and just say, look, okay, I learned long ago, Peter, my coaching style was very not the way I've been coached. In a sense, when I was coaching New Zealand, it was very much bully tactics. I'm not going to have a forward in my team that kicks a ball. I'm not going to have a forward in my team that arrives out on the wing. And I thought, why not? Why aren't we creating players that are multi-skilled? But so I was bullied that way. When I started coaching, the greatest attribute I had, I was very positive with the players. I'd always say, look, hey, you made a mistake. Let's forget about it. Let's work on the mistake so that you don't make it next week. But I never took the wind out of their sails. I'd always say, look, if we can just get this right about your play, you can be a great player. So I think it's working with their confidence around anxiety, and it's also working with their expectations, because we put a lot of expectations on young players now to go through the Irish system, to be provincial players, to be international players, to be British and Irish Lions, to be, there's a lot of expectation.
Brent, there's massive expectations, and I can see Peter Martin there beside you on the screen listening, because Peter Martin coaches, albeit not to there's nothing small or whatever about it, but Peter Martin, he coaches underage people, and I can see him listening with intent. Pete, would you agree with what Brent was saying there?
Yeah, well, I suppose I like the age group. We're just about. We're at the age group now where we're going into youth rugby. So
what age is that?
Well, it'll be under 13 this coming season. So they're all still, including my own son. He's in the back end of primary school. They're all in 5th, and so there's a couple of them in 6th class. So that space, that's where, you know, that's where, like, they'll be going into 6th class now in the autumn. So this is the they're playing on a full pitch. Just to set the scene, they're going to from we'll say the 20 playing half a pitch, going playing full pitch. They've all got numbers on. They're all getting jerseys. We're all getting numbers on the jerseys. We all had to get. This is something I was sorting out this evening. Was sizing for kids. Kind of get jerseys the last 2 seasons. So going 2 sizes ahead, because there'll be some kids who are looking at me in the eye at this stage, and I know there'll be other kids who'll be looking up to me, looking down on me next season. So it's all about those bits and pieces.
Pete, answer me this, if you can or you're not. It's not an argument. It'd be interesting to get your point on it, because it's a question often asked to me, and I've never really been able to answer it, to be honest. But I just watched a podcast with Sean Fitzpatrick, and he said, "At what sort of age do we encourage winning?" And it's an argument that rages on about, you know, when you start culling, I suppose, the lesser talented players, because it's got to a situation where a lot of coaches, hey, you know, like, that's great and that's one part of it, but we can't be giving out great performances to everybody in the team every week, because otherwise how do we build that resilience, or how do we build that kind of sense of achievement and winning? So you get 2 different opinions. Some people will say, oh, you've got to keep everybody involved and, you know, give everybody enjoyment, get everybody equal time on the pitch and that. And then you come up from a coach's point of view, when does that stop? At what sort of age does that stop, when you start saying, okay, look, you know, unfortunately your son, who you think is the best player in the world, I get that, but, you know, he's not good enough in that position to play this week. When does that start happening, in your opinion?
That's a loaded question there, Peter.
That's a very good question, Brent.
That's a very good, extremely good question, Brent. And not to make you feel like
myself, because I don't know, right? You know, but
I suppose
no pressure, Pete. No pressure, Pete. No pressure.
I've never pressure for tires. I've been doing a bit of research with those who've taken the step ahead of me. Those who are in the youth coaches will say, who are 2 and 3 years doing it ahead of me. I've just asked for their opinions, and one of the things was said to me, one of the biggest issues I'll have this year is dealing with parents.
Yeah.
So that's fair enough. My own view about, you know, but the question about when are they good enough to start winning is, I just kind of take the view at the moment is that let's not worry about winning. Let's worry about getting you upskilled, giving you all the skills, all the tools. And if winning happens, it happens. If it doesn't, you're just not there yet, but you're a hell of a lot better than you were this time last year. That's the best way I can kind of, I think the winning thing comes incidental. Now, don't get me wrong, the kids are definitely there, and like, we all want to win ultimately, like, because that's what gives us the most kind of pleasure. Now, personally, I've got a fair bit of pleasure out of coaching a number of the kids I currently coach. Like, there's a few of them in particular. You know, when they first started playing, there were like 2 Jinnets or Aegis on the pitch, and I had to separate them. And now they're amongst my best players. They're absolutely top. They're great kids. They're genuinely great kids.
But at some stage, that has to change. As an ambitious young coach, at some stage, you have to draw the line. At some stage, even for your own career. Now, I don't know, you know, what their career slide is for you, or that pathway is. But at some stage, you know, you can't go in and be on the promotion ladder if you've had 20 games and 20 losses. You won't be kept on. You won't be kept on. So at some stage, you've got to make that decision to maybe start saying, look, better, John, you may be better off in the seconds where you know, you might really enjoy your rugby. You're not getting much game time, and it's a hard decision to make. I don't know. I don't have kids myself, and I haven't coached at that age group. But it's an interesting dynamic, and it's something we need to talk more about. You know.
Yeah. Well, the way coming back to, you know, the scene I suppose we're setting for this season is that it's their first season playing on a full size pitch. Now it'll be sink or swim for some of them. in my view, is that someone will turn around and say, "This is not for me. There's
Too
too
far to
much,
run.
too far to run, too
Yeah,
much
yeah,
work
yeah.
involved." That's one of the
Yeah,
things I've been
Getting
trying to get from kids is that they have to work. You don't work. You don't stop working on the pitch either. When you make a tackle, you get up and you make another one. If you make 2 or 3 good passes, you keep doing it. You don't stop. You play
No,
whistle to whistle. That's
no,
you
no.
know. And then at the end, you can stop and we can have you can get your and convince your
Exactly.
mum and dad to buy a
No,
hot chocolate
that's good.
on the way home, kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And Brent, there's a comment there from Joe Lyons.
Yeah, and I see that from Joe.
Yeah, you see that, the negative culture that surrounds mental health and well-being.
Yeah.
We look at support
Yeah.
and therapy being a
You
negative.
know what?
Yeah, Brent, mental health support being perceived as being a negative is just
It still is. It still is.
alien to me. I don't-
Unfortunately, look, I hear it all the time. I'm an old gangster in this. I've been talking out my own mental health issues for nearly 2 decades, and people keep
Yeah.
saying to me, annoyingly say to me, things are changing. Well, I was just talking to someone from a suicide charity today, and she said, Brent, she said, you're exactly right. She said, things aren't changing as much as people think. They just want to think they're changing. We haven't really made any imprint on any numbers of people taking their own lives. The at-risk groups now are young people as young as 8 or 9 years of age. 8 or 9 years of age, they're thinking about ending their own lives. So, we've got to get off this way of thinking about, the culture has to change, Peter, in a way that we've just got to be prepared, as men in particular, be prepared to be more vulnerable with our feelings. I get all these companies coming back with all these strategies and policies, and that is great. But it's got to start somewhere, and it has to start, and because I've been down that pathway, it has to start by having a conversation and seeing that someone else cares. You only need one person to care, one person to save a life. Is that one person that somebody can get on the phone to or talk to and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And for that other person to say, I care about you, mate. I'll go with you hand in hand for that support. What's the alternative? Of the nearly 500 people that will take their lives in Ireland next year, 80 to 85% will be men.
Yeah.
So what does that say about our sex or our gender? It just says we're not dealing with as much as we think we are. We can come from these macho worlds of rugby or prison officers or construction, all that, but we're not doing something right. Women actually suffer from mental health issues in far greater numbers than men, but they do it well. They get together, they talk about it, they're on the phone, they're supportive, they have this wonderful nurturing ability to bring family around, to bring friends around, and they get over it. We don't.
We ask for help. We ask for help.
Yeah,
And that's just like I'm the only woman here, but from looking, we ask for help. Not everyone, but we do. And from looking from a woman looking at it with men, I don't think it's societal. It's not society norms that a man can say, I'm broken, I need help. You're expected to be. I'm the man and I'm tough, and it's like stiff upper lip. That's just what I see from it.
No, you're exactly right. You're spot on. That's exactly it, and that's what I'm trying to change. Because you're right. We as men are still stuck, and especially rugby men, we're still stuck in what it is to be a man. And what it is to be a man, in our views, is what it was in my father's time, which was a strong, silent, stoic type of man that protects and puts food on the table and goes out and hunts the mammoth or the lion or something. That's what is in our DNA. But that has to change because society is changing. And so men need to know that it's okay to be a bit more vulnerable. I'm not asking everybody to go out there and start throwing their feelings out there left, right. That won't happen. All I'm asking that men in particular do, just say, it's okay to ask for help. You're not a wimp. It's not weak to speak. It's okay to go to somebody else on the rugby team or at work and say, hey, mate, this has got nothing to do with you. It's not personal. I'm just struggling with a broken marriage. Or I'm struggling with the end of a relationship. Or I'm struggling with, assets, or I'm struggling with financial stuff. Just share it a bit rather than take it all inside and think, it'll get better, because we get stuck in the moment and can't get out of it. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
But
Brent,
anyway.
I tell you, sorry, Brent, I don't mean to cut across you. of Mary Carroll from the official Leinster
I know
support.
Mary. She's a great
You know
supporter,
Mary, yeah.
great woman. Yeah, she's a great woman, Mary.
She sent me a message and she said, "Hi Peter, can you ask Brent what he thinks of the sevens and his predictions for the Olympics?" Typical Mary. Typical Mary.
Yeah, and I just watched the two Irish games, and yeah, they've got a really good chance at a medal here. I think France were less than impressive. I haven't seen the New Zealand games, but I mean they've only got to get to the quarter final. The only thing about sevens that you saw today when Uruguay nearly knocked France out of it.
Yeah, yeah, watching that, yeah.
And I mean, God, I mean Dupont. I mean, to get over the World Cup, then to get knocked out by Uruguay from the quarterfinals would have been a disaster. But they somehow scrambled through. Unfortunately for me, is that when they have all these tournaments all the time, and I know they're thinking of these new tournaments. So when you have world champions every year, every 2 years, we lose something in the Olympics. Like previously it was 4 years, and now when you get these sports, same with the athletics, we had the world championship, and then that leads up to the Olympics, and you sort of lost between like. Every week you can tune into the sevens and watch Ireland play against New Zealand and South Africa and Argentina, and that's great. So whoever puts it together at the Olympics will win a medal. But Ireland have got some fabulous players. I mean, Terry Kennedy, man, he's a superstar of the game. That guy. I know his father. The rat.
Oh, very good. Come here, Brent. We'll move on after this, but before you come on, I asked everyone. And as brief as you can, because we could go on all night here. Is there
I hear you.
No. Everyone's got it. But NIQ players in the provincial system, is there any need now for NIQ players in the provincial system?
Well, certain positions. And I think they've done that now, haven't they? They said they're not going to take in props. Is that right?
Yeah. Now, can I just put in here, because when I told my boss I was talking to you, he did ask me to ask the question, what do you think of that rule? What do you think of that rule that Ireland have brought in, that we can't sign front row players from outside of Ireland anymore? Will it better the game, or will it better the Irish team and the provinces per se, or do you need an NIQ there to show the young lads how to do it?
Well, you make a really good point again. I'm sort of a bit sitting on the fence, because I've seen the value. I mean, I came over as a player myself, a foreign player, so I see the value of bringing somebody in that's maybe had test experience or something, so that can teach, especially in a position like prop or whatever, where there's a lot of technical stuff going on. So I applaud that in the sense they come in, but I also look at the other side and think, if they're taking somebody, if that's the area that the Irish rugby team are looking at for the next World Cup to win a World Cup, then those positions, if they're taken up by too many non-Irish qualified players, then we're losing game time for those players. But it's a tough one, isn't it? Because damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't take them in and you get pushed around the scrum by another province that has a couple of foreign props, then people are going to say, "Oh God, we need to bolster up that area." But I think that is an area. There's two areas that concern me, but looking for the next World Cup. One of them is in the front row, obviously, and the other is at back up at scrum half. I think the other two areas.
Tell you what, Brent, just to give you a spread. Of non-domesticated or nationality-born players. New Zealand had 10. Scotland had fucking 24. 24, Brent. Scotland had 24. Italy had 8. Ireland had 8. England had 6. France had 6. Wales had 5. Although Wales are shit, but they had 5. So there you go.
And how much you say New Zealand had?
New Zealand had 10.
but they'd all be island players, Polynesian players.
They were taken from.
It's a bit different in New Zealand. I mean, we've heard that argument before, and that's fine. But what people don't realise is most of the Samoan or Polynesian players that played in New Zealand have, either come over to New Zealand at a very young age, or they played all their rugby there.
Now, Brent, you could go down the rabbit hole of why aren't Fiji as good as they are? Why in Tonga? Because
but that's another argument, and I take
that. We're not doing that one. We'll be here till next week.
We're not.
I just finish on this because
go on.
Because people in New Zealand now, you might say, okay, they're conveniently saying that, and that could be an argument. But what people would say is actually New Zealand rugby, some of those players going back and playing those competitions has strengthened the Fijian game, the Polynesian game over the years, not weakened it. I mean, I know you can look at these players like Jeremy Kaino and these players that had wonderful careers for the All Blacks and John Olomu, but John Olomu, I think was born in New Zealand to a Tongan father or something and a Maori mother or something. I don't know, but look, I just when people say that to me, I say it's a little bit different than, say, for instance, somebody getting all these South African players. Look at the English competition. Some of these teams like Sale and that, what they had about 3/4 of their team was.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know.
Brent, could I just ask you a question? Just in relation to, you mentioned the props, and obviously that's an area I'm interested in myself. It's a former prop and what's going on in the front row. What do you make of my own view on Leinster's recruitment of Rabah Slimani is that it's very, very shrewd, a very shrewd acquisition, getting a guy. He's obviously massive top 14 scrummaging experience, and he's going to benefit, those in the immediate vicinity around him. Do you feel perhaps maybe that is there an issue maybe at coaching level in Ireland as regards we don't have maybe good forward coaches, guys who've we've nobody like the experience, the legendary Mike Cron or even Dan Human from South Africa, guys who are absolute
I know Mike Cron.
Rock, real forward coaches to get the dark arts and scrummaging. Do you think?
I think the problem always was a bit like what New Zealand are facing at the moment. The problem always was mostly size based, and I think that's going to come back to maybe haunt Ireland a little bit in the next few years, because New Zealand are pretty well stocked for big men. My God, if you look at, for those that watch the under-20s, that England front row was huge.
Phenomenal.
Jesus
phenomenal.
Christ almighty.
Was huge. So I'm a bit worried about, just going off piece a bit here. I'm a bit worried about England over the next couple of years. I think they're showing real roots of change in that team, and they're getting a few young players in. They did well out in New Zealand. They of course beat Ireland last year. Then the Six Nations. They're going to be a really tough team next year, and certainly a tough team by the next World Cup. So I think it's. I don't see these massive guys in Irish rugby walking around. I don't know what size the props were in the under-20s in the Irish team, but I think that's going to be a problem. It's what New Zealand are facing at the moment now. I go back to I defend Ireland this, and I say, look, we've got 5 or 6 guys who can play in the back row that, like Ryan Beard, Ahern. Like Ahern is 6'8" or 6'9". Beard is 6'6", big guys. New Zealand are struggling to get those big guys at 6. They're okay in the front row, but they're struggling for their back row balance. And for Ireland, they've got heaps of options from the front row back. But when we lose Keane Healy and Furlong in a few years, who are the up and coming 140 kg guys? That's probably going to be what you're going to have to be in 5 years' time. 3 years' time in the next World Cup, you can see that all the props having to be maybe over 125, 130 kgs, and that's the way the game's going, unfortunately.
Very true, Brent. Very true, Brent. Claire Devaney, moving on from all this. Hold on. Peter Martin is coming back in. I think, where is he there?
Thanks, James. So I'm just seeing that message. It's a lovely message. So thanks very much for that.
That's James Grannon. James Grannon is one of our backroom staff. He's a great guy, James.
Apart from his granddad jokes.
apart from
No, it's just a
apart,
lovely thing to say because sometimes you feel you're out there, plugging away and doing your best, and sometimes you think, oh, is anybody listening? But it's nice to know that
yeah,
that he had the courage to reach out. So thanks very much. I love hearing that, James. Thank you.
yeah, there you go. Thanks, Brent. Claire Devaney, a very it could be a yes or no answer, and you could give a reason behind it. Caelan Doris for Lions captain.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
no,
yes, yes,
or
yes, 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 and yes,
okay,
yes.
why?
I
Okay,
because
why?
I like him. Because I was gonna say because I really like him. He's really nice. But no, he's just. Well, if it was between him or Itoji, who would you pair fair? In all honesty,
Doris.
Doris.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I
But,
it's a yes answer.
No, it's a
But
sure.
Claire,
huh?
why is it Toje in the question?
Because that's what they're saying now. They're saying that he
Ah,
could be after the way he played. Was it last week or the week before, 2 weeks
No.
ago against New Zealand? Every single
it,
penalty he gave away was shocking.
yeah, Toje is a fucking walking yellow card. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
no, I wouldn't. Dara Weston, Caelan Doris, Lions captain or no?
My heart says yes, my head says no.
Right, go on.
I
Why?
think Andy is going to be more impartial. It used to be the Lions coach pre Gatland. They would pick their captain from not their own squad. Then Gatland tore up the unwritten rule book and he started picking 15 Welsh lads and giving them all positions. Um, I I think Andy will probably not pick an Irishman as captain. But Doris, he could get maybe forwards leader or something like that, forwards captain, vice captain.
But Dara, he'll probably have about 13 starting Irish players on the Lions squad.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he have Doris as captain?
How many times has Doris captained Ireland?
Oh,
Does he
8.
have the experience at captain yet?
He does.
It's only
I believe he does, Dara. I believe he does.
it's only in the last season we started talking about him as an Ireland captain. So
I know,
Lions is a different beast altogether. So
no, I know it is, but he has captained Ireland on 7 or 8 occasions, I think.
yeah, I know, but I don't know. I just think if he had 20 or 30, or more than that captaining Ireland, yeah, then it might be an obvious choice. But I don't know. I think Andy might go more diplomatic.
Okay.
He might bring Owen from France and make Owen captain.
Oh, stop it.
Nepotism.
Nepotism.
Richard Holland, your thoughts? Caelan Doris as Lions captain. Would you have him or would you have someone else?
I would, but we know he's a natural leader. That's just even the way he plays. He leads from the front, which is what you want in a captain as well. So yeah, I'd be inclined to say yeah, I would have him as a captain, absolutely, or at the very least, as Dara and a vice captain.
But okay, so if Doris is as vice captain, Richard, who would you have as captain?
No, that's the thing. You see,
Finn Russell.
yeah,
Shut
Finn Russell.
up. Finn Russell is the fucking spoofer. Fuck off. I'm not having.
I knew that I'd get you. I knew that I'd get you.
No, Finn Russell, Manny Lebach, Stuart Hogg, spoofers should be playing the game. Go away.
Anyway,
He
Peter
loves
Martin.
them really. He
No,
loves them really.
no, I do not. Peter Martin, Caelan Doris is Lions captain. Would you have him or not?
Well, there's very few candidates, I think, from the other nations who are really sticking their hand up. Like when you think about what he did over the 2 tests against South Africa, like he was absolutely outstanding. Like a real leader's game, if you like. He really did lead from the front. Like there was an issue then in the tests, all right, as regards communication. That's something that can be sorted out. That's tweaking stuff. That's basically sitting down and having a chat with the likes of Peter O'Mahony and a few other guys, rubbing shoulders, getting a conversation over coffee and talking about stuff. And indeed, perhaps talking with referees, our own referees or international referees. He'll get that. That'll come over a relatively short space of time. I would say that based on current trends and barring injury, I'd say he'll be nailed on as captain by Christmas this year. I would say, like, take into account, obviously he's not injured and he's available for the autumn series. I would fully expect Doris to captain Ireland during those games, and I would say I would expect him to have Lions captaincy nailed down by Christmas.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks, Pete. Brent, your thoughts on this? Caelan Doris?
Absolutely. I think I'd agree with the others. I look, he's only got to fill the roles that the first role that you've got to have as a captain is you can't have a touring captain. You've got to have somebody that makes the team as an automatic selection. So that takes a lot of the English out of it. Doesn't take a Toje out of it. I get that, but Toje doesn't have the experience of captaincy. I think that Doris is either the best or the second best number 8 in the world, I think, and he's been so consistent. He's got a nice way about him. I've met the guy a few times. He's a lovely, humble type of guy that just gets on with the job. The players like playing for it. You can see he's well liked. So he's all the ingredients. The only thing that possibly that could derail that is if Ireland had an absolute collapse of the season next year, because Lions coaches tend to go with the successful option. So if suddenly England reappeared next year and they won the Grand Slam or they won the Six Nations and they walloped Ireland out the gate, which we're not expecting, but if that was to happen, then he might opt for one of the English guys. But I don't see that happen. I think that Doris is certainly the front runner, because he's just a type of player that you can't even see him having a dip in form. He's that consistent in every game he played. Every game he played for Leinster, every game he played for Ireland. Wow, this guy's a superstar. He really is.
Brent, let me ask you a question, because I get an awful. I got a hard time about this in the group. Do you rate Stuart Hogg, Manny Lebock, and Finn Russell?
Yes, I do rate Finn Russell.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Brent,
if you were selecting a Lions team tomorrow, Finn Russell would be my out half.
Oh, no way!
Really?
No,
really?
Yeah.
Finn Russell is your out half for the Lions.
Yeah.
Well,
who would you put in? Who would you put in?
Yeah.
I put on Farrell in there before him.
No, well, take Farrell out of it. Say if it's not Farrell, who would you put in there?
Jack Crowley.
Really?
Anyone? Brent.
No, given the whole ethos of the Lions. Now, the ethos of the Lions is they just don't go out with a complete Irish team. They never have. They may select.
I guess you're Warren Gatland.
But they've got to select players from all the teams involved. They can't just go out. They've got to select some Scottish players. So you're probably looking at Van der Merwe on the wing or something, and then you're probably looking at Finn Russell.
Brent, he's fucking Van der Merwe. Jesus Christ, Brent. Van der Merwe is a one-trick.
I actually like Van der Merwe though.
So do I.
Well, you can't just say Lowe and Mac Hansen or Lowe and like. No, but
you've
got to put some Scots in. So where are you putting the Scottish players?
On the bench or doing water duties or whatever the fuck.
Brent.
I don't care. Sorry,
just a question for you as regards Finn Russell, right? 79th minute, and Lions are we're in the 22.
Yeah.
Final test, deciding test. We're into 22.
Yeah.
The Lions pack is grinding away.
Yeah.
And we're a drop goal would win it. Would you back Russell to say, "Give me the ball for the dropper"?
I don't know, but the question goes back to you then. Well, who's your starting out half if it was tomorrow? You're saying Crowley then?
With Russell's ego, he'd be demanding the dropper from halfway line.
You can't put it. You can't put.
And he'd probably get it.
No, he probably wouldn't get it. Jesus Christ!
But who do you
It's like with the Irish team. We have to
put in. Dan
Bigger's
not available. Dan Bigger's not available. You've got nothing in Wales. Would you go?
You have nothing in fucking Scotland either, Brent. You have nothing in fucking
Scotland. Would you go with Marcus Smith then?
Oh, Marcus Smith. Gone from bad to worse. Anyway, moving on. My last thing, we're approaching the hour mark and we have to finish up shortly. Brent, you touched on this earlier, and it's a really interesting topic. Brent, I'll come to you in a minute on this. But Claire, I'll come to you first. The different coaching styles of Leo Cullen and Andy Farrell. If you take it that sometimes or most of the time, the Irish national squad is mostly Leinster players, right? Andy Farrell seems to bring out the better side of Leinster players, and it seems to be going on results and past seasons and finals and blah, blah, blah. Leo just doesn't seem to get that bit extra out of them. In your
Can
view,
I,
there, yeah, go on,
can
Greg,
I,
go on,
can I just revert back to something that Brent said earlier on?
go on.
Andy probably has more slices in his pizza than Leo does. And
Right.
that's it. No, that's what he said earlier on. Maybe he has slightly better all-round coaching techniques, or maybe there's that extra 5% there that the lads probably, not saying it is, but maybe it's the extra 5% there that the lads feel probably more at ease with Andy, or that like there's Andy probably gives a slight bit more. Not saying that it is, but you don't actually know till you see it, and we've never seen the way the two of them coach.
Well, he's more hands-on for a start. I mean, what people don't realise is that Leo probably is more of a director of rugby than the absolute coach, whereas Andy Farrell is the coach. Andy Farrell's out there with the tracksuit on, running them through. He's got the game plan and stuff like that. You know, that's Leo brought somebody in to do that for him. So Leo has an overall view of what's going on, a bit like David Nusafora before him. He has an overall view. And, you know, he's taken a bit of hard press for Leinster's performances at the end of the season, but he's not actually the go-to man every Saturday. He's kind of just overseeing, putting people in place to look after the lineouts, to look after the you know, so in a sense, you know, it's a kind of it's comparing apples with oranges, I think, you know.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, we had, you know, Leo isn't that hands-on. We had Stuart Lancaster.
Yeah,
now we have Nina Barr coming in and completely changing things. And then the other thing is, in Leinster, the lads are contracted for Leinster. They know they're going to start. Whereas in the Irish squad, they're competing against the other provinces. So they don't, you know, it's kind of the best of the best, kind of, you know. So, and then there's the added kind of, you know, Leinster is your day job. Ireland is the privilege of representing your country. So does that bring an added incentive to it? Which is not something that Andy adds. It's just something that the shirt has.
And also you have them for a shorter time period. And we've all known over their coaches, after a few years, it doesn't matter what a coach says, people just get sick of the same voice. It's only a natural thing. It's like having a CEO for 10 years in the same company. After a while, what they're saying, while it may be right or wrong, it just doesn't sink in. And the same thing happened to all the great coaches. Same thing happened to Joe Schmidt. After a while, Joe just, you know, it wasn't working so well as when he started off. So, but you're right about the fact that Andy has different skill set. He's more hands-on. He's not he's a director and a coach, whereas Leo's role. Now I'm not 100% sure this because I don't know what they do, but my role, as I see it for Leo, is that he pulls all the pieces of the jigsaw together as best he can to have a successful season. Like he can't be blamed for going back in the scrum and somebody say, "Oh, Leo should be replaced because the scrum's not working," because he doesn't take the scrums or he doesn't take the lineouts. He, you know, I don't even know whether he has the overall game plan. I mean, I think you know, that's why they brought in a World Cup winning coach to do, wasn't it?
Brent, do you think, Brent, let me ask you a question. Do you think Paul O'Connell is doing a good job with the lineout?
Yeah, I think he had a first season was novel for him, but I think he's nutted his way around it, and I think he did a fantastic job out in South Africa. Yes, people will talk about that game against South Africa in the World Cup, and you know things can go wrong, but no, I think he's doing a pretty good job. Because a bit like Andy Farrell, he's got that kind of, he's got the players behind him, you know.
Well, I think, Brent, we lost 4 lineouts in the first test.
In South Africa?
Yeah, yeah.
They
Would
put
that
that
be
right
normal?
in the second test, didn't
I think the 4 lineouts lost in the first test. Would that be normal?
they? Well, probably not. But hey, you can get on the phone to Paul. I'm not doing it.
I like
You,
it. I
you,
like it. I
you
like
go
it.
and tell them, Pete. I'll spread the
Yeah.
word that you're going to give them a call and say, hey, what about these 4 lineouts we lost, Paul?
No, no, no,
We'll
no,
send
no,
out the
no.
search party for him.
I just see
Exactly. Yeah.
Joe put Jamie George of an excellent choice, and he would be. Jamie's well liked, but again, he wouldn't get in there over Dan Sheehan. So, you know,
Yeah, true.
Well,
Uh,
with Sheehan now, that's going to depend on his injury. He done the ACL.
Yes,
So
ACL. Yeah.
whether
Yeah,
he's
go
going to
on.
be
You're
back
right.
in time for the Lions.
who Dan
Richard
Sheehan?
Holland.
Very true.
Richard
Dan
Holland.
Sheehan.
Dan
Richard
Sheehan
Holland.
did
Holland.
ACL in
Did
the
he?
first. Yeah.
Richard Holland. I was going to ask you, Richard.
Didn't hear that.
The different coaching styles between Leo and Andy. Andy can get the best out of the Leinster players. Leo, maybe not so much. Sometimes.
Just my theory. Could it be that Andy's more an arm around the shoulder coach, whereas Leo's a little bit more standoffish? And speaking from my own experience with the coaches, if you have a coach that you like, you'll go through walls for him. There could be a little bit of that in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's and you will give the 100% you're going to give anyway. But if it's a guy that you really like, you're going to give the 110% every time.
Yeah. All right. Peter Martin, last word to you, and we'll finish on this.
The difference in coaching style. Well, I think I just always think back to the interviews, that the contrast interview, and I'm bringing in Graham Rowntree in this, between Leo Cullen and Graham Rowntree. Like, Leo Cullen rolled out basically this thing, the boys always, something along the lines of, the boys have always given us big days in Europe. And contrasting that with Graham Rowntree, rub the hand over the head and says, Jesus Christ, was tough. I just thought it was like, you've got night and day there as regards, the relationship and, the empathy, shall we say, between a guy like Leo Cullen and Graham Rowntree. Like, Roundtree's more likely is a more emotional kind of leader. Like, even thinking back to the final days of Van Gran in charge, I remember seeing that clip of the inside of the dressing room, and Rowntree was there beside Van Gran, and Rowntree was there, fist pumping, giving it socks, and you could see Van Gran just looking at him as if he was a nut job. And the difference then, you could see the difference then when Rowntree came into Munster as head man. He totally gets Munster, and Munster get him. There's a symbiosis there. There's a fantastic relationship. Those players are almost crying. They're so, I'd say, they feel disappointed when Rowntree says, "Lads, what happened? We played shite." I'd say they're just apologising, saying, "Sorry, Graham, this is dreadful. I'm going to reevaluate my life," kind of thing. On the other hand, Cullen is basically quite stoic, very kind of, he's business-like, CEO kind of detached style, and I just think that's basically where the difference is that, a guy who's more connected emotionally, with more of a relationship. That's Farrell. Farrell is a guy who I'd say he tells the lads, "You know what? We're supposed to do something tonight when they're in camp. Let's go to the pub." And it's and the drinks are on me. I'd say Farrell is the kind of guy who just basically.
Feeling, you guys are all around the Leinster. What's your general feeling after last year? What's your general feeling around the camp? Do most people feel that Leo should have gone at the end of the year or not?
No,
I'm recusing myself. I'm a Munster fan, so I'm recusing myself from this one.
I'd go, Brent. I'd go one more year, one more season.
Yeah,
but that's all he's going. That's all he's going to do, because isn't that all he signed up for? Wasn't there talk last season when he signed the extension that kind of they were saying like he really wanted to go, but he was talked into staying? Now that's only rumor. That's only what I.
They're going to have a fantastic team next year, aren't they?
Yeah, true.
When Artie joins and Geordie joins,
Yeah, it's going to be a serious.
Anyway, Jesus Christ! Look, we could be here all fucking night if we wanted to.
We usually are.
we usually are, but we have to end it here.
Something else going on.
My sincere thanks to Claire Devney, who's about to fall asleep, Darragh Weston, Peter Martin, Richard Holland, and Brent Pope. As always, a pleasure to have you.
Thank you,
on.
Brent.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brent.
Thank you so much, Brent. You are a legend. Bring back Brent.
Bring back Brent. Actually,
I
Brent.
think I might
Hashtag bring
start
back-
my own campaign.
Hashtag
Brent.
bring back Brent.
That is Brent. That's a hashtag. Bring back Brent. There you go.
Exactly.
All right.
I'm going
Listen,
I'll certainly share it with my family.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thanks,
All right,
thanks,
take
Brent.
care.
All
Bye.
right, cheers.
Bye.
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 Thanks all.